The smell hit me before I even stepped through the front door. Butter, garlic, seafood. My stomach tightened so hard it felt like someone had wrapped a fist around it. I stood on my parents' porch with a blueberry pie balanced in my hands, trying to convince myself I was imagining it. Maybe they'd made shrimp for someone else. Maybe the crab was outside on the grill. Maybe my sister Vanessa wouldn't make tonight about me. I should have known better. The moment I walked into the dining room, Vanessa looked up from arranging bowls on the table and smiled the kind of smile that never reached her eyes. "There she is," she said loudly enough for everyone to hear. "Our family's most dramatic member." My mother laughed. Not a nervous laugh. A real one. "Emily, set your pie down. Dinner's almost ready." I swallowed the lump in my throat and placed the dessert on the counter. The steaming pot in the middle of the stove answered every hope I'd been clinging to. Crab bisque. My pulse immediately sped up. "You made crab?" Vanessa shrugged. "It's my engagement dinner. I wanted my favorite meal." I looked toward Mom. "You know I can't even be around it for long." She waved her hand dismissively. "The windows are open." They weren't. Every single one was shut. The air felt thick with seafood. I reached into my purse for the antihistamine I always carried. Gone. My fingers searched every pocket twice. Nothing. I'd switched handbags that afternoon. Great. Vanessa noticed. "Oh no," she said with fake concern. "Forgot your miracle pills?" Dad folded his newspaper. "You've carried those things for 15 years. I changed purses." He sighed dramatically. "Convenient." I stared at him. "What does that mean?" "It means," Vanessa answered before he could. "We've all wondered the same thing." Silence spread across the room. The kind that warned something ugly was coming. She leaned against the counter and crossed her arms. "Do you know how many family vacations have revolved around your allergy?" I blinked. "What? No seafood restaurants, no beach crab boils, no shellfish festivals, every holiday menu adjusted because Emily might die." She even rolled her eyes when she said the last word. My mother nodded. "It has been difficult." I laughed once. Not because anything was funny. Because I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "Difficult?" Vanessa continued. I started thinking about it. Thinking about what? That no doctor in this family has ever actually seen you have a reaction. I felt cold despite the hot kitchen. "You've been there." "No," she smiled. "I've seen you panic." My heartbeat hammered against my ribs. "When I was 11 I went into anaphylactic shock." "You said you did." "I was hospitalized. You told us that." I stared at Mom. "You stayed with me." She avoided my eyes. "Well," my voice cracked. "Mom?" Vanessa answered instead. "Funny thing." She picked up a stack of papers from the counter. "I requested your old records." I frowned. "You can't." "Oh, I can." She waved them. "Nothing says shellfish allergy." My mind raced. "Those weren't my records. They couldn't be." "I don't know what you're holding." Dad leaned forward. "Enough." "No," I whispered. "It's time this family admitted the obvious," Vanessa said. "Emily has always exaggerated everything." Every memory flooded back. When I broke my wrist falling off a bike, Vanessa told everyone I cried before I hit the ground. When I caught pneumonia in college, she joked I'd invented it to skip finals. When I miscarried at 9 weeks, she'd whispered to an aunt that maybe I was never pregnant. There was always one pattern. If something happened to me, Vanessa found a way to make me the liar. I looked around the table. Nobody defended me. Not one person. Instead, my future brother-in-law Derek chuckled awkwardly. "I mean, if she's allergic she'd know." Vanessa smirked. "Exactly." She picked up a soup ladle. "Which is why tonight we'll finally settle it." Every muscle in my body stiffened. "What are you talking about?" She filled a porcelain bowl with steaming crab bisque. Rich, creamy, filled with chunks of crab. She carried it toward me. "Eat." I stepped backward. "No, why not?" "You know why. If you're allergic, one spoonful won't kill you." "That's not how allergies work." She laughed. "Oh please." Mom folded her arms. "I do think you've let fear control your life." "Fear?" "I've had EpiPens prescribed since I was a child." Dad snorted. "Doctors prescribe all kinds of things." I felt like I was standing in someone else's nightmare. Every face I loved looked strangely unfamiliar. "You don't believe me." Vanessa tilted her head. "I believe you've enjoyed being the center of attention." My throat tightened. "I've spent years avoiding restaurants, reading ingredient labels, carrying emergency medication." "Exactly," she replied. "It's become your identity." I turned toward the front door. "I'm leaving." She stepped in front of me. "No," my chest tightened. Not from the allergy but from panic. "Move." "Not until you prove it. I'm not risking my life to entertain you." She thrust the bowl closer. Steam curled between us. "One bite." "No one." "No." Dad's voice turned hard. "Emily." I looked at him hopefully. Instead he said, "Enough with the theatrics." Something inside me cracked. Not loudly, quietly, like ice breaking beneath someone's feet. For 32 years I'd kept trying to earn love from people who treated my pain like an inconvenience. Tonight they wanted evidence. Not because they cared. Because they wanted permission to keep calling me a liar. Vanessa's smile widened. See? She looked around triumphantly. She won't do it. Derek laughed nervously. I guess that answers the question. No, I said softly, it answers a different one. Everyone looked at me. It tells me exactly how little my life means to all of you. Mom sighed dramatically. Emily, don't be manipulative. Manipulative, the word echoed through me. I reached for my purse. I'll leave. Vanessa grabbed my wrist, hard. You're not leaving until this ends. Let go. She didn't. Instead, she picked up the spoon with her free hand. My heartbeat exploded. What are you doing? Helping. She scooped up the thick soup. I jerked backward. She followed. Vanessa, it's one bite. Stop. Her fingers tightened around my wrist. The spoon came closer. Instinct took over. I twisted violently, trying to break free. The bowl tipped. Scalding soup splashed across the floor, across my sleeve and over Vanessa's expensive white dress. She screamed. For one frozen second, everyone stared at the crimson-orange stains spreading over the fabric. Then Vanessa's face twisted with rage, unlike anything I'd ever seen. You psycho! Before I could even react, she lunged toward the stove, grabbed the entire pot with both oven-mitted hands, and took one furious step in my direction as if she had already decided exactly how she was going to prove I was lying. She looked absolutely unhinged, not angry, not emotional, deliberate. The heavy stockpot trembled in her gloved hands as thick crab bisque sloshed dangerously over the rim. My father jumped to help her steady it, but instead of taking it away, he simply made sure she didn't drop it. Vanessa, Derek said uneasily, just put it down. No, her eyes never left mine. She's going to stop making fools of us tonight. My mother didn't tell her to stop. She didn't rush toward me. She simply folded a kitchen towel and muttered, honestly, Emily, if you'd just taken one spoonful, none of this would have happened. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. You're blaming me? You ruined her engagement dinner. I ruined it? My voice cracked under the weight of disbelief. She grabbed me. Vanessa stepped closer with the pot. You spilled it. I was trying to get away, because you're a liar. Every instinct screamed at me to run. I backed toward the front door, but Dad blocked it without even looking at me. Nobody's leaving until this is settled. The words hit harder than any slap. Nobody's leaving, including me. Including the woman whose throat could close within minutes if shellfish touched her mouth. I suddenly understood something that made my blood run cold. They didn't think they were hurting me. They genuinely believed they were exposing me. That made them far more dangerous. I forced myself to breathe slowly. Move, Dad. No, I'm asking you one last time. He sighed. Emily, your sister is tired of your games. Games. I looked at each of their faces. Mom, Dad, Vanessa. Even Derek, who looked deeply uncomfortable, wasn't willing to step between us. Not one person believed I deserved protection. Then salvation arrived in the most ordinary way imaginable. The doorbell rang. Everyone froze. Vanessa cursed under her breath. I invited Grandma, Mom said. The room went silent. Grandma Eleanor rarely attended family dinners anymore because arthritis made traveling difficult. She'd insisted she was too tired for Vanessa's engagement celebration. Apparently she'd changed her mind. Dad opened the door. Grandma shuffled in with her cane, smiling warmly. Oh, I hope I'm not late. She stopped. Her smile disappeared. The kitchen looked like a crime scene. Soup covered the floor. Vanessa's dress was stained. I was backed against the wall. Vanessa was still holding the stockpot. What? Grandma asked quietly. Is happening? Nobody answered. Finally Vanessa forced a laugh. Emily's making another scene. Grandma looked at me. My breathing had become shallow. She knew me well enough to recognize panic. Emily? Before I could answer, Vanessa interrupted. She's pretending she's allergic to crab again. Grandma's expression changed instantly. Again? Dad shrugged. We're tired of the lies. The silence that followed felt heavier than anything that had happened all evening. Then Grandma slowly turned toward my parents. Please, Mom, Dad said impatiently. You know how dramatic Emily has always been. Grandma blinked. No, I mean the allergy. What about it? Vanessa spoke confidently. We checked her medical records. Grandma frowned. Which records? The hospital. Grandma's eyes narrowed. What hospital? The county hospital. Grandma let out a slow breath. Then she laughed. Not kindly. A short, disbelieving laugh. You fools. Everyone stared. Vanessa frowned. What? You searched the wrong hospital. My heart skipped. Grandma pointed her cane toward me. Emily wasn't treated there. Nobody spoke. She nearly died at St. Matthew's Children's Hospital. My mother's face drained of color. Grandma continued. I was the one who rode in the ambulance with her because Linda, she looked directly at my mother, was in too much shock to drive. Mom's lips parted. You don't remember? Grandma asked. I remember every second. She looked at me with heartbreaking tenderness. Emily's face was swollen beyond recognition. She couldn't speak. The doctors worked on her for nearly 20 minutes before her airway stabilized. My hands began shaking. I'd been so young, I barely remembered it. But Grandma remembered everything. Vanessa scoffed, "She's old." Grandma's eyes flashed, "I'm old." She reached into her purse. "But unlike you, I keep things." She pulled out a worn envelope held together with yellowing tape. "I don't throw away important memories." My pulse quickened. She handed it to me. Inside were photographs, tiny, glossy. One showed me in a hospital bed, tubes everywhere. Another showed my tiny wrist with a hospital bracelet. The last showed my grandmother sitting beside me holding my hand. I burst into tears before I even realized I was crying. Grandma had kept them for over 20 years. Vanessa glanced at the photos and shrugged. "Those prove she was sick. Grandma smiled sadly. "They also prove something else." She reached into the envelope again. This time she unfolded a faded discharge summary. There it was, in unmistakable black print. Asterisk severe anaphylactic reaction to shellfish. Lifelong avoidance recommended. The room became impossibly quiet. My father stared. My mother covered her mouth. Vanessa snatched the paper. This could be fake. Grandma's patience finally snapped. "You are accusing me now?" "I'm saying, you nearly forced your sister to eat something that could have killed her." Vanessa threw the paper onto the counter. "If she was really allergic, she'd have been reacting already." Grandma looked confused. "What do you mean?" "The steam." Vanessa pointed triumphantly. "She's been standing here for 20 minutes. Grandma looked at me. My chest suddenly felt different. Not tight from panic. Tight from breathing. I swallowed. My throat scratched. I hadn't noticed, I'd been too terrified. I coughed once, then again. Harder. My eyes began watering uncontrollably. Grandma's expression changed instantly. "Emily," I touched my neck. Warm. Too warm. Something wasn't right. My breathing sounded faintly raspy. The room blurred. Vanessa's confidence finally wavered. Dad frowned. "Emily?" Another cough ripped through me. This one stole half my breath. Grandma was already digging frantically through her purse. "EpiPen." She looked at me. "Where's your injector?" I changed purses. The words barely came out. For the first time all night, genuine fear spread across every face in that kitchen. Even Vanessa's. The change happened so quickly it almost felt unreal. 1 second everyone was talking over each other. The next, all I could hear was the high-pitched ringing in my ears. My throat felt as though invisible hands were squeezing it tighter every second. Drawing a full breath became impossible. I instinctively clawed at my neck, desperate for air that refused to come. "Emily!" Grandma shouted. Dad rushed toward me, his confidence evaporating in an instant. "She can't breathe." No one answered him. No one needed to. For the first time in their lives, they were watching my allergy instead of arguing about it. Vanessa stood frozen beside the stove, still clutching an oven mitt. I didn't." Her voice disappeared. Grandma shoved past everyone. "Call 911. Derek finally sprang into action, fumbling for his phone with shaking hands. I'm calling." Mom grabbed my shoulders. "Oh my God, Emily, sweetheart, sweetheart." The word sounded almost foreign coming from her. I couldn't answer. My lips had started tingling. My vision narrowed until every face became surrounded by darkness. Grandma searched every kitchen drawer. "EpiPen. Doesn't anyone keep emergency medicine?" Dad looked helpless. "We never needed one." Grandma spun around. "Because you never believed her." The accusation landed like a slap. Vanessa slowly backed away from me, horror spreading across her face as she watched red hives creep up my arms. "No," she whispered it over and over. "No, no, this can't." Then she looked down at the discharge papers she'd called fake. Her hands began trembling so violently that the pages slipped onto the floor. The dispatcher came through Derek's phone. "Emergency services, what's the address?" "My fiancé's sister." "No," Grandma barked. "Tell them severe anaphylaxis. Tell them she's losing her airway." I felt myself sliding downward. Dad caught me before I hit the floor. His shirt blurred beneath my fingers. He looked terrified. More terrified than I'd ever seen him. "Emily, stay with me." I wanted to tell him I was trying. Instead, another violent cough escaped. Almost no air followed. The paramedics arrived within minutes that somehow felt like hours. The front door burst open. "Where is she?" "In here." Everything became movement: blue uniforms, medical bags, firm voices. One paramedic knelt beside me while another asked rapid questions. "What caused it?" "Crab," Grandma answered immediately. "Did she ingest it?" "I don't know," Vanessa suddenly blurted out. "She didn't eat any." The paramedic looked confused. "Then why is she reacting?" Grandma answered with quiet fury. "Because she has an airborne shellfish allergy." The room fell silent. The paramedic nodded once. "It happens." That simple sentence crushed the last excuse anyone in my family had left. They weren't witnessing some impossible medical mystery. They were witnessing something that professionals accepted without hesitation. An oxygen mask covered my face. Cool air rushed toward me. A needle pierced my thigh. Seconds later, another medication followed through an IV. My heartbeat thundered painfully. The lead paramedic watched me carefully. Stay with us. I nodded weakly, slowly, very slowly. The pressure around my throat eased. It wasn't immediate. It wasn't dramatic. It was simply enough to remind me what breathing felt like. Mom collapsed into a chair and began sobbing. Not polite tears, the kind that came from absolute horror. Dad buried his face in both hands. Vanessa hadn't moved. She was staring at me as though she'd never actually seen me before. When the stretcher was ready, the paramedics wheeled me toward the front door. Grandma squeezed my hand. I'm coming with you. I managed the smallest nod. Behind us, one of the paramedics turned toward my family. I'll need someone to explain exactly what happened. Nobody spoke. Finally, Derek swallowed hard. I can. He looked at Vanessa. She couldn't meet his eyes. I watched everything. His voice shook. She told Emily to eat the soup. Silence. Emily refused. Silence again. Then Vanessa grabbed her. The paramedic wrote something down. And after that, Derek closed his eyes. She tried to force the issue. The paramedic stopped writing. His expression hardened. Force? Nobody answered. He looked directly at Vanessa. Ma'am, she whispered. I didn't think. You understand forcing an allergen on someone can constitute criminal conduct if it knowingly endangers their life? The color vanished completely from her face. I wasn't trying to kill her. No one said you were. The paramedic zipped his medical bag. But intent isn't the only thing investigators consider. That single sentence shattered whatever confidence Vanessa still possessed. For the first time in her life, consequences had entered the room. I spent 2 days in the hospital. Grandma never left. She slept in an uncomfortable chair beside my bed, despite my protests. My parents came the next morning. I asked the nurse to tell them I wasn't accepting visitors. They waited 4 hours before leaving. Vanessa never came. On the 3rd day, I was discharged with new prescriptions, a replacement EpiPen and strict instructions to avoid shellfish exposure for several weeks. I thought the nightmare was finally over. It wasn't. It had only begun. The morning after I got home, my phone buzzed with a voicemail from an unfamiliar number. It was Detective Laura Mitchell. She asked me to return her call regarding an incident involving reckless endangerment. I stared at the phone for a full minute. Then I called back. The detective's voice was calm. Ms. Carter, several medical professionals filed mandatory reports after reviewing the circumstances surrounding your hospitalization. I didn't report anyone. I understand. She paused. But medical staff are required to notify law enforcement when a life-threatening injury may have been intentionally or recklessly caused. My stomach tightened. So, what happens now? We investigate. Within 48 hours, detectives interviewed Derek, Grandma, both paramedics, and even my parents separately. The stories didn't match, except on one point. Every single person confirmed Vanessa had insisted I eat the crab soup despite repeated warnings. Derek went even further. He admitted she'd grabbed my wrist to stop me from leaving. When detectives asked whether he'd seen that happen, he answered with one devastating word. Yes. A week later, Vanessa called me for the first time. I almost didn't answer. When I did, all I heard was crying. Emily, I said nothing. I've been charged. Still, I stayed silent. My lawyer says if this goes to trial, she broke down completely. I could lose everything. I looked out my apartment window at the quiet evening sky. For years she'd dismissed every pain I'd endured, every illness, every heartbreak, every truth. Now she wanted mercy. The same mercy she'd never once shown me. She whispered through tears, "Please tell them you forgive me." I closed my eyes. Then, for the first time in my life, I realized revenge didn't require raising my voice, humiliating her or destroying her myself. All I had to do was tell the truth. And that truth would become the biggest mistake she had ever made.